Hi there. If you're interested in finding out how you can stand out during the job application process, be it for an internship, for a work placement, or for a full-time job, then this is the video for you. Hi there, welcome to the Afro Girl Diaries channel. My name is Belinda. If it's your first time here, definitely don't forget to hit that notification bell and subscribe so that you get to know when I produce new content. I usually upload a video every other week, and this channel is focused on academia, career, and lifestyle content. So without further ado, today's video is going to give you tips on how to stand out during the job application process. So basically, this will follow the typical graduate application process because it tends to be the most common, the most tedious. And if you're applying for different type of opportunity, be it internships, work placements, or even professional level job, it would normally be a subset of this process. So by covering the graduate application process, I believe the tips that you get will be transferable to any type of process that you're applying for. So, going straight into it, a graduate application process tends to comprise of a number of stages. I think it's the most lengthy that I've ever seen. So, the first process is usually filling in an online form. It's usually an application form, and depending on the company, it can take you 15 minutes to complete the form. For others, it can take you 3 hours. So it really depends on which company you're applying for. But most of the time, it asks for your personal details, it asks for your education history, any work experience that you have. And then it goes on. This is the part where it could end there and you just need to attach your CV and your cover letter. But most of the time, if you're applying for a very competitive opportunity, they won't just make it that simple. They'll probably add some questions where you need to provide 250 word responses. Normally they're competency based, so it would be based on situations where you showed certain qualities that they're looking for. So it could be based on their values as a company. So they'll ask you maybe questions around teamwork, leadership. So you give example scenarios where you actually showed those qualities. So depending on the company, it could be very straightforward, or it could be one that you need to sit down and really have a think about what it is you want to demonstrate and what examples you want to have from your life. What examples you want to showcase from your previous experiences. So basically, some tips that I've learned along the way, because I have done a lot of applications in my past. So for those of you who haven't seen some of my videos, I have done an industrial placement. I did one at IBM, and then I have done internships. So I did internships in my first year, a placement during my second year, and then I got onto a graduate scheme after I graduated. So each of those opportunities required me to fill in an application form. And some tips that I would have is there's quantity versus quality. Quite a dilemma for most, but I think I would pick quality over quantity. So there are some people who believe that for you to get through and have as many opportunities as possible, you need to complete many applications. I don't doubt that, but if quality becomes at the expense of that, then probably you need to reduce the number of applications you're making. You don't want to be that person who, in your 250 word responses, you quote the wrong company because you've done so many, you've mixed them all up. Please, please, please don't sacrifice quality over quantity. You can prioritize your applications because, of course, you need to make more than one if you want to have a chance. Track them. Have a tracker in place. I used to have a spreadsheet where I know on this date I applied for this job and this is the stage it's at. So you can track your applications. What are the deadlines? Where have you reached? Because it could be it's a 5-part application and you've done two parts, or for another one it's 4-part application, you've done 3, so you're only remaining with the last stage to do. So it's good to just track all your applications so that they don't you don't get past the deadline. It's so bad to have put in so much effort only to realize you missed the deadline. So it's good to track them. Make sure it's a number that you can actually deal with, you can manage, so that you don't mess them up, you don't mess the quality. Probably if you notice, a lot of the applications are requiring you to give examples. They're competency-based questions, so you need to give examples from your experiences, and these experiences don't usually change. It's just usually how you explain them that could be different, but the situations would be the same. So if you've had a previous internship and you're using it as an example in every application, you probably want to have a good description of that experience somewhere in your files, so that every time you don't have to start from scratch, you just adapt your response to that company. So have a central repository of all your experiences that you want to highlight. It could be in your application form, or you want to use them later on during interviews. Just have them stored somewhere. Trust me, it will save you a lot of time. And all you'll be doing is picking from that file, adding them to the form, and just adapting the response to suit that application. So that's tip number one: quality over quantity. Tip number two: track your applications and check the deadlines. Don't miss them. Third tip is to prioritize. It goes hand in hand with tracking your applications, but prioritize based on which is a job you really want. If there's a certain graduate scheme and you know that's your dream company, that's your dream job, you probably want to work on it first, put in all your effort, and then the other jobs, which are just to play safe, you can then work on them second. So prioritize based on importance to you, prioritize based on deadlines. You can also prioritize based on ease of completion. Trust me, I did that. There's some applications, I had a look at them and you see that this is probably going to take you 3 hours. This other one is a good company as well. It's going to take me 20 minutes. I'm going to do the 20 minutes one first. I know whenever we plan our day, we tend to want to do the hard things first. But this is just a personal opinion. I think when it comes to applications, as long as you really want the job from all the companies, start with the ones that you can complete quickly. And then your application is through the door, at least. And then you can work on the tough ones. So something worth checking if you're an international student is, do these people sponsor visas? You don't want to work on an application, spend effort on it, only to realize that company doesn't even sponsor visas. So, all that effort was for nothing. So just check that. Always check with the company first. Check on their website. Probably usually indicate somewhere on their website if they sponsor, where the job vacancy is as well. They'll indicate if they'll be able to take on international students or international people who need visa. But then also, you need to put in that application quickly, because as much as there is a deadline, most companies, most recruiters review applications on a rolling basis, and they have every right to close down that job advert before the deadline. So don't be there waiting for the last day to submit, trying to perfect your application. You'll never get to 100%. Just put in what you need to. Be happy with that and just submit your application. Because if you wait till the last minute, you might find that people have already gone for their assessment centers. People have been invited for interviews already. And that's when you're putting down your application form. The chances of you getting it, especially if you're an international student with extra baggage of needing a work visa, no, don't wait till the last minute. Put it in as early as possible. Just to give you timelines, I put in my applications during the summer before I graduated. So right before I entered into my final year, that August, September time, when you still have some time before things get hectic in your final year, that's the time to put in your applications. Most global companies, these big firms, usually open their graduate schemes during that time. So you want to be among the first people to put your application in. By October, I was being invited for interviews. By mid-October, I had my job offers. So you can only imagine, some people start applying literally before they graduate. For you, the year before even Christmas, you already have your job offer, and you can relax knowing that you have your job. It's a conditional offer most of the time based on what you get, what you graduate with. But knowing that you have a job gives you some level of peace that you need in your final year so that you focus on your dissertation. So that concludes it for job application form, that first stage. The second stage is usually aptitude tests, or some people call them psychometric tests, online tests, but it tends to follow on from the job application stage. So aptitude tests, they usually test your knowledge, your capabilities, but also, are you suited for this company? So it's not just checking your IQ, they also check how your personality. So there are usually some personality tests, and they want to see, will you fit in, will you be a good fit for the company? So how to prepare for this? Practice makes perfect. There's no way around it. The more tests you do, the better you get at them. You'll notice most of them are quite similar. Many recruiters, many companies, they just tend to work with the same consultants who develop this type of tests. So you'll notice they're quite similar. So if you have time, the best approach is for you to try the online free tests, or you can even pay a subscription to just try out these tests before your real test. But if you are like me who, I honestly didn't have time, or let's just say I didn't make time for it, I practiced through my real job applications. So I can tell you for sure, my first initial applications, I failed the aptitude tests. But I used them as practice for the jobs I really wanted. So if you have time, practice without being in the real scenario. That's the ideal. But if you find that you've run out of time, you've already submitted your applications and you have gotten an invite to the online tests, probably start with a test that you don't really mind if you fail it. See how it is. That will give you a good idea of, do I actually need to pause everything and just do the online practice tests? Or are you in a good position and hence can go forward with real life scenario kind of tests? Also, these tests, they're usually different types. So there's numerical, verbal, diagrammatic, the one that usually tests your patterns and things like that, following symbols, things like that. There is also situational judgment tests and personality tests. So these are basically online tests, can take quite a bit of time to do, depending on the company and how many they want you to do. But something, a tip that I usually have is track the deadlines. So sometimes they don't need you to do all the tests at once. Sometimes they can let you do one and then the next one has a deadline of 3 days after. So they could send you the invite based on, are you passing the initial test? So you're sent a numerical one. If you pass it, you're sent the next one, like that. There's some that require you to do it all in one sitting. If you get those ones, they can take time. The truth of the matter is the test might even take 3 hours. So set aside time. Don't do them in a rush. Prepare on a Saturday afternoon. Know that for the next 3 hours, I'm going to be doing this test. That's why this application process honestly can be very draining, and you just need to be prepared for it. Don't think that everyone goes through this. Don't think that this process is meant to just be the worst thing in the world, but it's also not the best thing. It can be draining. So if you need a break, if you need to take some time in between the tests, do that. Of course, not the time when you're being timed, but before you start the next one, take a break, do what you need to do. You know yourself, you know how you work, but don't miss deadlines. Many people do this, and this tends to happen when you apply for 10 applications at once. You can't even remember which one you needed to do. Don't be that person. Deal with the number of applications that you can actually manage. When it comes to the personality tests, people tend to pick what they think the answer should be. But if you've ever noted, personality tests tend to be very long. It will be like 100 questions and the questions repeat themselves. So somewhere in between there, when you're tired and you're just wondering when will this test end, you will default to what you would actually do in that situation, and you might find yourself being picked up on a lie that you made. So my tip is just select the answer that you think you would do, that comes naturally to you. When you look at that question, they ask you, what would you do in this? Like, arrange them based on what you typically do. Just select the one that you would do. Because at the end of the day, what's the point of going to a company that doesn't fit your personality? Unless you're a terrible person, most of the time, just picking what you would do naturally should be enough. It should be sufficient for you. So because these questions are designed to repeat themselves and catch you out on lies, just say the truth. Be honest and be consistent, and you'll find that you'll pass the personality test. So yeah, that's all for today's video. If you have any questions or you'd like me to cover the next stages of the application process in a specific way, maybe there's certain things that you specifically want to hear information about, definitely put your comments in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to consider them when I'm making my next videos. Bye!